Consequently, all things related to the profession of a psychological nature, I am fed up with this profession, this niche, or I want to open myself up to new knowledge, learn a new profession, will always be activated by associated transits to the moon, because it embodies my place in the world and is the significator of the profession. When we see that the slow planet has come to the moon forming a square, we will recommend to the client to leave the job. The person must change the direction of his professional activity, and the person will say that he wants to change profession, quit everything. We remember that all the slow planets, especially Uranus, are resetters. This question alone closes the subject of the moon transits. If Jupiter is afflicted in the radix, then all its transits will have an afflicting nature. We remember that transits represent a kind of projection of our birth chart, but in the dynamic timeline, if you have a bad actor on stage, then naturally he will play all his roles badly. Therefore, if a planet is afflicted in the birth chart, then it will create tension in the transits, even if they form harmonious transit aspects. Any prediction starts with an analysis of the transits of the social and slow planets to the moon. The transits of the sun are very personal. Unlike the transits of the moon transits can be very strongly felt because the moon is our life. 70–80% of everything around us is the moon, because it is responsible for our reality. The transits to the sun are not always felt unless a superior planet activates the sun at 1000%, sometimes very radically, when the person plunges into total depression and begins to devalue everything. This would be the means for the sun to carry out a sort of purge, when the native suddenly realizes that his life is meaningless. These would be sudden jumps, unlike the transits to the moon. What happens during transits to the moon? I live. My life is empty. I try to find meaning in what I do. The transits to the sun make you eject from orbit when in 1 second I take awareness that everything has depreciated, has lost all value, that there is a void around me. The transits to the sun affect my healthy self-esteem, my healthy ego, my values, my goals, since most people are ready to sacrifice very easily their goals and values, their ego for the sake of social things. The transits to the sun stay very often unnoticed or are played negatively, especially the transits of the trans-Saturnian planets. Thing number 2, any kind of partnership, relationship. Venus as such not responsible for love. The inner, the unconditional love is the manifestation of the solar function. Venus covers the functions of exchanges when we maintain warm ties with friends and relatives. This is my attitude towards any type of alliance or union. Often the theme of pleasure is attributed to Venus. There is no pleasure in Venus. The only planet that is capable of experiencing pleasure, joy, surprise, is the Sun. Venus has the capacity for satisfaction with the results. Uranus in transit is in square to Venus. You are led to reset the majority of your relationships, to question them. You must move away from people, put distance between you and your partners, and be cold and absent. Finances will be also in deficiency of superior Uranus. You must plan all your expenses. Jupiter stands for the talent of presenting oneself in an advantageous light. It is the planet of pretentious attitude, in the positive and pejorative sense of the word. Jupiter is the ability to evaluate something, but it's not the solar ability. According to the latter, I know my value. With Jupiter, we are talking about the ability to socially highlight my strengths. This is the strength of authority. Jupiter in transit squares Venus. At this present moment in relationships, I am in a crucial deficiency of authority, the strength of influence. I must impose myself and call on my qualities as a leader. At the lower pole, Jupiter begins to devalue everything. Jupiter squaring Venus gives us patience, but negative patience. Good patience is the theme of Venus and Mercury. Jupiter at the lower pole begins to endure where it is not necessary at all. Jupiter squares Venus. Now we need to reach a new financial level and set new financial trends. If this does not happen, and this most often does not happen, then the person begins to restrict herself in spending, trying, for example, to reduce the costs of living by depriving herself of everything. This puts her in the position of victim. At the lower poles of Jupiter, the person is afraid of growth and tries to keep everything as it is. I will not take risks. I do not want to face my imperfections. For this very reason, very often the transits of Jupiter have a negative nature. Because the person does not dare to go further or take radical actions, she begins to take the position of a victim or of a person who endures everything without rebelling. Expansion according to the principle of Jupiter is associated with the acquisition of new experience. Jupiter is courage when I am ready to try to offer readings. Very often, Jupiter does not give us this courage because it comes down to power and governance. Do we allow or not to ourselves this or that thing on a social level? Jupiter squares the moon. We bring up all social things, self-criticism. I'm not good enough. I don't know enough things. I compare myself to others. What for would I initiate something? In the name of what? This is the subject of the sun. Jupiter contains a social subject. I want to prove this or that to society. Jupiter will make us go through the strength tests, will expel us from Olympus, will not allow us to climb Olympus so easily. All that negative you read about Saturn actually refers to its lower poles. Saturn has been venerated since antiquity. Many festivals have always been dedicated to him. The Holy Trinity in Christianity is the symbol of Saturn, as well as the Holy Trinity in Hinduism. In the Kabbalistic tradition, Saturn is venerated as the mother of all. In alchemy, Saturn is responsible for the process of fermentation or putrefaction. The planet embodies the notion of equitable distribution. It is often said that according to Saturn, you must restrict yourself, limit yourself completely, and deprive yourself of everything. Saturn is the planet of fertility, but its fertility has a special connotation. Saturn affirms that the way we distribute and manage resources will determine our chances of surviving winter. We have harvested wheat. If we eat all this harvest right away, then we will have nothing left for the winter and we will die of hunger. Saturn speaks of apportionment, competent and fair distribution, and removing excesses. Transiting Saturn squares Venus. The goal is not to reduce expenses to the maximum, but to distribute the budget, set specific financial goals, and control income and expenses. In other words, to remove excess income and expenses, to feel what is in surplus and what is not. Saturn squares the moon. We should reduce calories, portion out food, control it, and repeat it for the duration of Saturn's transit. Mars and Pluto are responsible for hunger. The self-preservation instinct forces us to earn money to buy food. Uranus also personifies hunger, but it will be ideological hunger. Saturn is not associated with hunger, but with the elimination of excess. It is the planet of harvest and fertility and respects cycles. It controls the 4 seasons, the rhythms, and describes the sequence. You have sown, you took care of it, and you will get a result. The lower pole of Uranus, the solar pole, often causes the split of the personality that cannot focus, tries to speed up processes, clings to the present moment, does everything quickly, impulsively. Chaos sets in and everything collapses. Chaotic speed is the negative manifestation of Uranus. If you do something in a hurry, according to the lower Uranus, without analyzing the situation, then Uranus will give pure negative at 1000%. This is a cold analytical planet. It says that it is better to stop and contemplate than to rush, but at the lower poles it causes nervousness and stress. Uranus squares the moon. the person has the feeling that she's losing control, that everything is beyond her control. The fairest strategy will be to let go, to completely let go of the situation, to take a step back, because the more we get involved, the more Uranus will create its monsters and its chaos. During Uranus transits, the person does not live in the real world, instead of relying on cold calculation. This is what we call wishful thinking. Uranus creates a sudden problem, and then we say that an unexpected event has happened. Uranus squares Moon. This aspect is very difficult to survive, because it causes a split, a scission in the psyche. I have to do a million things at the same time, here and now. Uranus squares the Sun. You must symbolically lose the meaning of life. Uranus gives a sensation of emptiness, and you must live it, feel it, and not think that your life has lost its meaning. When the person does not accept that everything loses its meaning, she is overcome by panic, and this engenders stress. She strives to find this lost meaning, while she should choose passivity, should devalue everything in the name of a new beginning. The person says to herself, on one hand, I am fed up with everything. On the other, I am afraid to let go. I am suspended, frozen by the sense of guilt. The emotion of detachment, of the absence of meaning, must be experienced. If we start to fill the void of Uranus with something, then Uranus will hit us even harder. Neptune also stands for foreign countries, for everything that is foreign. It is also status, authority, or brand image. When we are experts in brands, the transit of Neptune forces us to differentiate halftones. Neptune squares Venus. Get to know the varieties of tea, vineyard regions, watch brands. This will allow you to increase your financial capacity. Venus in relationships during Neptune square obliges us to learn to understand human psychology, that there are high-quality people and mediocre individuals, whereas with lower Neptune, everything is very simple. Everything is classified in black and white, good, bad, nice, ugly. If we do not understand that the world is not white or black, but that it is made up of 50 shades of gray, then Neptune will inevitably take revenge. Neptune teaches us that there is no notion of good or evil, black or white in the world. It encourages us to confront marginal areas, to look for workarounds, to move towards the shadowy side, to work with the qualities of the shadow. Pluto conjunction Moon. I must set limits in my relationship with the mother, because apparently I become dependent on her, and this will subsequently destroy me. I must take a firm position about loved ones to the mother and temporarily move away from the family. If we are adults and the family helps us, then we have to flee the family to face the crisis. During the Pluto-Moon aspect, the person will never evolve as long as she uses crutches and exits that secure her. The day when the crutches break, Pluto will offer opportunities for impressive growth. So during Pluto transits, we must plunge into a crisis to initiate growth and development. Remember that Hades in Greece is the god of resources, of the jewels that are dwelling underground. Pluto's transits are very long. It irons the natal planet like an iron. Pluto forbids acting softly, inertly, and making compromises. In transits, it activates the following theme. Whether it is me who run over others, a situation, or other people crush me, run over me, there is no room for the moral rules stipulating that I must be good and nice. That will not work with Pluto.